Welcome to another edition of the Bryan Basketball Podcast. Before we get going, can you please like and subscribe to the channel? My goal is to grow this channel within the next year as much as possible, full of basketball content, full of health content, full of life content. So do yourself a favor and make sure you click the like button, the subscribe button, and the bell for all notifications. Also, this video is being brought to you by and powered by SeatGeek.com. SeatGeek.com is an online ticketing app. So any music concert, any comedy concert, any sporting event, baseball, football, basketball, go over to the app, use promo code Coach Turner to get $20 off your first purchase at checkout. Appreciate your time. I'm glad you was able to find this channel. I hope you like this video.
So I kind of instantly fell in love with it. I think I started actually playing like organized basketball at the age of 3, man. So like it was weird. I know that like the YMCA you couldn't start playing there until you were 5 years old. And then somehow my dad knew somebody that worked there, and I kind of ended up playing up a little bit. So I just been around it my whole life, man. Just going to practice with him, just being around his like players at the time. So it was kind of just, it was a way for me to kind of stay out of trouble, and it was just a way. It almost served like a babysitter to a sense. Like I constantly was in the gym with him, so I was in level on the sideline when he was, in practice and all that type of stuff, man. Like so, it was just something that I kind of just gravitated to. It was never forced on me though. It was never something that like you go play basketball. Like it was just something I liked. I saw it and I just enjoyed it. And then as far as the education piece, like my mom, she's stickler on that. My dad was too. So they both, like you mentioned, former educators that kind of they just kind of came natural a little bit. Like they made sure that I was always doing what I had to do in the classroom and stuff. So that kind of really helped, my progression.
All right. So I was just looking through some notes and I kind of knew this, but I want you to kind of speak to this. Like you one of the only, I'm gonna say players slash coaches to have a chance to win a state championship as a player and then also as a coach. So just take me back to those early years. You played for Lutheran North High School. What
Mhm.
was it like? First of all, what was it like with the conversation, or did you have a say in even the decision of did you want
Yeah,
to go to Vashon or did you want to stay with the,
right.
the the Lutheran route? So how did that work out growing up as far as in middle school?
So man, like in all honesty, I ain't have a say so for real, man. Like I actually wanted to go to Vashon, obviously. All my
Mhm.
friends went. I ended up like I played ball with like me, Jimmy, Boone. Um, a lot of us grew up playing together since like the 7th grade, and all of them ended up transitioning to Vashon, and I was the only one that didn't go. So that was something that I really wanted to pursue that. My mom didn't really want me to go for, she really felt like it was going to be difficult for my dad, being an assistant principal, having me there. You know what I'm saying? It really didn't have anything to do from a basketball standpoint because she felt like I was gonna get what I needed to get academically from them, and at the same time, basketball wise, I was gonna continue to grow in it, and I was gonna eventually be able to be good enough to play there. It was more so just was she, she didn't really want the added pressure of him having to, manage the school with, me being there too, because it felt like it might be in a conflict of interest at times. So,
Mhm.
um, so she really kind of pushed for me to figure out something else. But I actually had a group of friends also that were going to Lutheran North at the time too, and I grew up because Lutheran North wasn't too far from my house, and we kind of bonded at camps and stuff like that, and I just decided to go there. That was really my choice. It was either going to be that or it was going to be go to Normandy. And at the time, like I really wasn't familiar with Normandy as far as their basketball program and stuff. So
Mhm.
it was more based around like where my friends were at the time.
So let's just talk about just the basketball part. How was it playing for a coach, but then knowing that your dad is Coach Irons? Was it ever a time or a situation where you had to advocate for yourself as far as playing, or once you got there, you were kind of a little step ahead of everybody just because you had been around the game so long?
Yeah, Yeah. So when I first got there, so again, I was going to camps there when I was, I think my seventh and eighth grade year is when I went to Luther North Camp.
Mhm.
And so the coach was kind of familiar with me. And he actually kind of, him and my dad used to have discussions about if when I got to high school, what my plan was going to be. And so they kind of were familiar with, my ability on the court. And when I got there, obviously we all come in kind of, cocky and all of that. So, I felt like I was good enough to play varsity as a freshman. So, it was, I had to go through the proper protocols and steps. Though I tried out with the freshman team because every freshman had to. I ended up getting moved up to JV right away. So I played JV for 3/4 of the year. And then I eventually ended up getting moved up to varsity towards the end of my freshman year. So, but I had to earn my way through that. So it really wasn't, a situation where, I wasn't promised anything. It wasn't like, you come here, you're going to be this. I had to kind of earn my way each spot. And I actually thought that it was beneficial to my growth,
Right.
as a player too. I learned a lot from my dad, just being around the gym and playing. I used to jump in practice with him sometimes. So I think it kind of prepared me going into high school to be ready to be able to play
Right.
immediately.
hmm So let's just talk about that. So you go into maybe let's say like your junior year, and when did you realize that you guys had a special group that you, hey man, we might have a chance in winning the championship if we push forward? Did you guys talk about this like over the summer? Was this ever a conversation, or was it something that just happened?
Yes. So I mean, you remember the Vashon was the best of the Midwest, like little summer leagues
Right.
and all of that stuff. Yeah. So one summer, I think it was the summer of our junior year, like we had it was like 7 or 8 of us, and we were all juniors, and we had a chance. Like we knew we were good. Like we had a chance to be good. Like we kind of dominated it. We ended up losing in I think the final four of the little tournament on a buzzer beater. And so that summer kind of catapulted us a little bit. We ended up losing in the district championship against Cardinal Ritter,
hmm
but we were the number one team in the state at the time in our class.
hmm
So, we knew that we were good. We dropped the ball, but we returned everybody. So we knew the following year we really had a chance to be good. So
hmm
that's kind of, conversations that we had was just about like wanting to win the championship and all of that. So it just ended up, we went through a lot of trials and tribulations, and I know you're probably familiar with a lot of it, you
hmm
know what I mean? But we, my freshman and sophomore year, the coach that I actually went to Luther North to play for ended up getting an administrative position, and he
hmm
ended up retiring from coaching. And then we got a new coach, and for whatever reason, we didn't necessarily see eye to eye a whole lot of throughout the course of my junior and senior year, but we ended up finding a way to make it work. When it was time to go into playoffs my senior year.
So then let's just talk about the transition from high school to college. Was it like some more growing pains, like adjusting to the speed of the game once you went off to school, or like how was it when you first stepped on campus at the was it the School of Ozarks, the University of the School
Yeah,
of
college,
Ozarks,
college, college of the Ozarks.
College of the Ozarks?
So
So how did that transition work from are you a state champion in high school and you making that transition to college, and it's a whole nother ball game?
yeah, yeah. So I was kind of fortunate because my college coach, that was his first year at the school. So I was in his first recruiting class. I was actually the last recruit that he signed.
Okay.
So he was in the transition phase too, because he had a group of kids that were there for the old coach that were classmen, and then he was trying to kind of mix us in at the same time. So it was a lot of filling out, but the good part was we all got a first shot coming in. So I started my first college game, and I played awful. You know what I
Mm,
mean? But just like you said, man, just it was kind of pressure. It was just first time really playing with a shot clock. First time some different the philosophy. My coach's philosophy was a lot different than what I had been accustomed to in
mhm,
high school. He was more of a motion offense type of guy, and he was still trying to figure that piece of it out himself. And so we were kind of the experimental group at the time. So it was a lot of, it felt like we were just running around sometimes with our head cut off, not really knowing what we were doing. So it just, getting acclimated to his, his system, and just figuring out how to play within that. So, like throughout the freshman year, I think it was just a bunch of growth just in general, man. It was something that like, I'm definitely thankful for, because I learned and grew a whole lot my freshman year opposed to high school. But I came in thinking I knew more than what I really did. You know what I
Right.
mean?
No, no, and kind of speak to that, because I'm kind of was in the same boat. Like I go to junior college my freshman year, and I'm thinking like, okay, I've arrived, and it was a lot of growing pains, and dealing with the being homesick, wondering
Yeah.
what folks are doing, not having the type of success that you may have had in high school, but then trying to figure it out. Like, man, everybody is kind of going through this same stage, and it can get better. So kind of speak to that, for if you have kids listening right now and they may hit a roadblock they freshman year, that you can kind of speak to just the transition and the growth of how college is.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm coming from a big city, St. Louis, not a huge city, but it's still the inner city.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm transitioning to Branson, Missouri, which was kind of a culture shock at the time. So that was the major adjustment, was, going from a city atmosphere into a more of a rural. That was an adjustment. Academically, it wasn't really, that much of an adjustment for real. It was, just trying to figure things out. I didn't know what major. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just knew I was there to play ball. But that was my first time really getting in a weight program that was completely different than what I had been accustomed to. The morning conditioning, all of those things. It wasn't just going out playing and getting in the gym and hooping. It was more of a regimented structure. And then that was the first time of really having to balance our time. Like, time management was huge at that juncture, because College of the Ozarks is also one of the few schools that is a work study program built in the school at the same time. So it didn't really matter if you were an athlete on scholarship. Like, each one of us had to work 15 hours a week on top of everything else. So I'm balancing working at a daycare center 15 hours a week, basketball, and then academics at the same time, study hall, all of that stuff. So I'm balancing all of that as a freshman. So it got overwhelming, man. And then we had to do 2 40-hour work weeks in addition to all of that. And my first 40-hour work week was over Christmas break, so I didn't even get to go home my freshman year at Christmas. Like, I had to stay there. So I was the only person, like it probably maybe been about 50 of us on campus at the time. So it wasn't anybody there. And then there was another rule that all freshmen had to lock their cars up throughout the week. So we had to park at a separate lot. So I didn't even have access to my car at the time too. So I'm literally stuck on campus with no transportation until the weekend.
So they don't want freshmen even driving the car during the week.
Nah, they don't. Yeah, so it was part of, that's just it's one of those. It's a private school, so that's
Yeah.
what it is, and it's designed really to make sure that you stay focused and structure, your time around, academics, and not getting caught up with, a lot of distractions. But man, it made me, it shot me straight, but at the same time, it made it a little bit of a rough transition at the beginning, because I don't know if I was really necessarily mature enough to handle all of that at first. I was ready to come home. I ain't gonna lie. Like, but once I got the basketball season, like, it was cool.
Man, I was bringing laundry home every week, trying to, man, get a meal, and then I'm only 2 hours away. So, well, at the time I'm
Right.
like an hour away. So I'm trying to. It was times I was coming home during the week, and hitting the roadblock, kind of figuring out like you can't do this. And to those that listen, like you said, the big thing is time management, because you got all of these things you're trying to fit into a 24-hour day, and you trying to, college kid, you trying to have some type of a social life, where you got to make a decision on, am I going to work on my game, am I going to work on school, or am I going to try to party and have some type of social life? And you have to make a decision on what you want to do. And that's the big thing, I feel like, as far as college, that you have to get mentally ready for, right?
Yeah, and I almost was I was almost on work probation my freshman year, man, because we had 6 a.m. Conditioning, and I had to be at work at 9. So like, we got done from like 6 to 8, and then so I got an hour to like shower, get dressed, and then walk to my job. So walking to the job, I'm already like, I'm getting there. I'm kind of like, man, I don't really feel like getting
Mm-hmm.
there. And funny story, man. So I was at 9 o'clock is when the daycare center actually opened, and I was in charge of one of the teachers in the 4-year-old. But I was the first teacher there, so parents would come in and drop their 4-year-old kids off. And one day, a parent walked in, and I'm passed out sleep on the carpet, and then ended up telling my work supervisor that I'm in there and they're dropping kids off, and I'm not there to greet them and supervise the kids because I'm just exhausted from what I'm saying? The
Yeah,
workouts and stuff like that. But that was reality though, man.
man. So when did the light come on for you that you just say, "Hey, man, I want to get into coaching or even education"? Was it a particular point in time or some type of like, light bulb that just clicked on and said, "Man, I might be pretty good at this."
So right after it's two stories. So like one was about my junior year. There was actually I was actually approached about coaching an intramural team because at the time they wouldn't let us play in intramurals, and I used to want to go play in the gym all the time, so they wouldn't let us play. So there was a girls team that actually was like, "Hey, you want to coach us?" And I was just really like, that was a time to like try to shoot my shot. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like it was a couple nice looking girls on the team, so I'm like, "Yeah, I'll coach you." And but it ended up getting a little serious though because like where they looking at it as it was just something that can, to pass the time and have fun. Like I started getting kind of competitive with it. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Like I was like, man, I don't really like losing and all of that. So that was my first really like introduction to like any type of coaching. And then after my senior year, like right after we won our national championship, my senior year, um, I couldn't go into student teaching until basketball season was over because student teaching was going to take a full semester. So I still had an additional semester left of school.
Mm-hmm.
And my college coach actually approached me about staying on and actually coaching with him. And so that's what, kind of really got me thinking about coaching more seriously because at that time, like, I was thinking about like, should I go try to play professionally? Should I try to do different things? It was like a bunch of different routes. But honestly, I was like, man, I just really want to just kind of like figure out what the next phase is, you know what I mean, of my
Right.
life. And so I stayed around right before I got ready to graduate and just learned a lot from him. And I ended up going right into grad school and staying with him an additional year just because I just liked it.
Mm-hmm.
So that he's really, kind of the first person to actually mention coaching to me,
Mm-hmm.
at that time. So that's what kind of got me involved
Yeah,
with it.
and I like to even tell folks like that's really if you really have a passion in coaching, especially if you want to coach at that next level, stay on as a grad student and help out if they give you that option too, because you still in it, you fresh off of it, and that's a way of just kind of being around the game until you figure something out. Would you think that that's some good advice to give to guys that's still involved in
Yeah,
it as opposed to chasing basketball? Because at some point the air is gonna come
right.
out of the ball, and you want to be in a position of where you have things kind of set up. Whether if you want to think about it now or later, but would you say that that's good advice?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And you got to be realistic too, because like, I mean, one, I wasn't as good as you, B. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't as good as you. Like, I knew even if I did get an opportunity to do that at the next level, like, it wasn't going to be something that I probably would have enjoyed like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Just because it would have been like starting from the bottom, working my way up. So by the time I probably end up making like real money or being in a real situation, like it may have been 5 to 10 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so, I understood that kind of going into it. So it was never a discussion on not being around the game. It was a discussion on what to do with the game. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
because like I couldn't see myself doing any other job that didn't involve basketball. So I just had to figure out what it was.
Nah, that's real talk, man. Because and I want to kind of make even the transition to even getting into the high school scene because, and we can kind of bounce back and forth, but just I feel like folks don't give you enough credit for just the amount of lives that you've affected, and not just in the what we quote unquote call superstars, but the amount of
Mm.
kids that just by you coming back and being a face around the game, that you've kind of inspired folks to, following this same path to where they might have tried to do something else. But kind of speak to that, not just about the marquee players that you get, but making that transition and kind of talking about like your first group would imagine. So you graduate, you come back home, and talk about like that first group. Does that first group mean something? Is it real special to you? The first group that you started
Yeah,
coaching?
yeah, absolutely, man. Like, so I can just remember that. So my first job as a coach at Imagine, like, I didn't get an opportunity to kind of start as a JV coach and work my way up. Like, I got offered the head coaching job right away, and
Mhm.
it actually was the principal at the time was one of my grad school teachers, which makes it crazy. She was the principal. Um, she had just kind of heard about me a little bit, and I got to know her doing some of my classes, and she approached me with actually, like, taking over the program, and I hadn't heard anything about the program. I just knew that, like, I was enjoying coaching in college. I was learning a lot, and so the opportunity to get a chance to become a head coach and just try it was there. And my dad being a successful high school coach, I kind of going in at the time was, I didn't really want to coach high school because I didn't really want to follow down that path. You know what I mean?
Man,
Because
that's
there was
some
some
big
big shoes to
shoes,
fill.
man.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So,
some
like,
massive
I
shoes, man.
man, I did everything that I could to kind of like stay away from it, but it just ended up working itself out that I got there. So when I got there, they had a team. I mean, they had a group of kids. They weren't necessarily it wasn't necessarily the best team. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But um, they didn't ask for me. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. Like, but it really taught me a lot as a coach because, like, that's when I first figured out that it was bigger than just X's and O's. It was more about the relationships and just trying to help them any capacity that I can.
Mhm.
I think I'm like 23 years old, man, at the time. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like,
no.
and I'm out there playing with them, like, so it's crazy because, like, I still keep in contact to them, like, to this day. Like, I was just talking to one of them yesterday, and he was talking about how it's just amazing how he looks at, like, some of the guys now and what they're doing, like, and just the resources that some of them have now that when I was back in Imagine that we didn't have. We
Yeah.
just hustled and tried to make sure that we were able to help them. So, like, it's just the game has come a long way, and but they never ever complain about it. They just said, like, at the time, like, man, do and it's just shooting stories, man, and just having a good conversation about it. But, like, it's just it's crazy. Like, I got invited to first one of the kids on my first team to his wedding. But I was actually out of town at the time and didn't get a chance to make it. But just to even get an invite to something like that, man, that says
And
a lot. It just says that, like,
no, we just look back and see how time fly just like that, and that's why I feel like stuff like this is so important because we'll look up 4 years and pass, and then another class might not even know the stories of things that you've accomplished, I've accomplished, or just like they right now just focusing on all right, Jason Tatum, Bradley Beal, these are the guys that are in the NBA, but not knowing the rich history that's then came within the last 10 years to where it's like, man, we just didn't fall out of the sky with these two guys. There's been guys kind of punching at that ceiling for the longest that people may have forgotten real quick. You know what I mean?
yeah, for sure, definitely, man.
Yeah, nah.
Definitely. And we got a rich tradition of basketball just in the city of St. Louis in general, man. And that like you said, I think it's very important history and understand why how they got to the point that they're at right now. Like, it's a lot of people that me and you looked up to when we were kids, man, just watching them play and wanting to be like that, and now you got guys that maybe wanting to get into the coaching field because of some things that they see us doing. So, like, it's just important
Hmm.
to be able to show them that, we still willing to learn. We still got, great relationships with each other. Like, and we're trying to teach the game, man, at the highest level that we can.
Hmm. Yeah, no doubt. So I just want to kind of, so you just spent 3 years, was it 3 years at Imagine? So
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, so you three years at Imagine, you guys got through two district championships, and then you made a run towards the Final Four.
Yeah.
So
So
was things coming back full service where you just like, man, look, I've did the groundwork with this group. Now it's
mhm.
starting to pay off.
Yeah. So like it's crazy, man. Like um at one point the number was three, man. Like I was at my third year at Imagine. We we ended up making it to state. We ended up losing in the semifinals. And then I returned, like, well, what was crazy is that year the school closed that same year.
Okay,
And
yeah.
so I remember being in the locker room at the Final Four with the guys, and we were like, kind of talking about like what's next, because it was no secret at the time. Like, it was out in the media that the school was closing. Like, the kids knew. So it was just a lot, a lot of stress on all of us at the time. So we really couldn't even concentrate on trying to win the game because it was just so many emotions in the locker
Right.
room. And so, like, we didn't know if all of us would go, what the future held. Like, we all would be in the locker room again at any point. So once we end up finishing fourth, and then once the school closed, St. Louis Public Schools kind of absorbed us, and they took over the charter, and they opened up Madison College Prep. And
Hmm.
luckily, a group of us ended up going and staying together and going there. We lost, I want to say like 3 or 4 kids, end up
Hmm.
transferring to other schools and stuff like that. But kind of our nucleus stayed together. And that first year, we ended up winning my first state championship. Uh,
Hmm.
and then 2 years later, which was the next third year span, that school ended up closing. So we ended up at Vashon, man. So it's just crazy, man. Like, at least the only good thing is, man, this is going into my 6th year at the V, I think 6 or 7. So it ain't closed yet. So you know what I mean?
Man, and that's funny because I'm just looking at, man, how time flies, man, and I'm just looking at your resume as far as, okay, 2011, that was the championship at Madison, right?
I think
2000.
10 maybe, something like that. It was around that, I think.
Okay, and then the V's first championship back with you was the 2014.
Yep.
Okay, so
So I think
just
you're right. It is 10, 11, and then 14. Yep.
yeah, so it's just like just going through those transitions. How was the approach going back to Vashon, and then just like you saying, just stepping into big shoes of getting into the high
Yeah.
school coaching? How did you feel making that transition and stepping into the shadow of what your father had built at Vashon?
So what was crazy, man, I ain't even really have a say so on going to the V. Like, once Madison, like, once they, because the same thing kind of happened where it ended up leaking out that the school was going to close,
Hmm.
and like the transition plan for the school was for us to merge with Vashon. So it was kind of difficult, man, at the time, because like Vashon already had a team over there. They already had a coach that was in place over there, and like I know, like, coaching contracts, especially in the city, man, like they're renewed every year. Like, they're just so,
Man,
like, you can be the coach one year, and
man,
then the next year you
look,
just change.
just like this paper right here,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
over.
So like, yeah. So and that's what it was, man. Like, so going into that situation, man, like, I was kind of, I felt kind of some kind of way, because I didn't really, I knew they had a coach, man, and like I didn't want to, go into a situation and I ended up taking somebody else's job, man. That was like important to me. I was like, I was against that, man. So, my principal ended up getting the principal's job at Vashon, because again, they were transitioning everybody over there, and he asked me to be the head coach. Up meeting with the guy who was the current coach over there, just to pick his brain to see if he would be interested in still being a part of it, or but I didn't want to make put any pressure on him either, because at the end of the day, like, that's not necessarily like a easy transition to do, but I wanted to at least put that on the table, and just to have a conversation with him, man, just to let him know that, like, I'm not somebody that's trying to get your job, man. I'm not trying to
Right.
do that. Like this is just how stuff ended up, falling. Because if I had it my way, I would still be at Madison. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like it wouldn't be anything like that. So he ended up not, staying, wanting to do that. But at the same time, our relationship was okay. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
we had that conversation. And, like I told him, the kids that were at Vashon, I wanted to make sure that, they got a fair shake. Like it wasn't like all of our kids because we were fresh, honestly, we were fresh off of going to the Final Four the year before. And we had like 85% of our kids coming back.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
so there was also, a little bit of turmoil at Vashon because those kids knew that our kids were coming over there too. And, so they're worrying about like, am I gonna make the team? And what's gonna happen with this? And so it was just a lot, man. Like that first year was more about us trying to merge two cultures of,
Yeah.
schools together and turning it into one more than it was about like, me stepping into my dad's. Like I didn't even really at that time get a chance to even really think about that because it
Right.
was always about like making sure that I was doing things the right way as far as for the kids and
Mhm.
making sure that they didn't feel a certain kind of way. So I kind of, I was almost like, um, I was extra with it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just so they felt comfortable being there. And then the guy whose job who I ended up replacing, his nephew was actually at Vashon on the basketball team. So I ended up keeping his nephew, and then
Mhm.
we ended up helping his nephew get a college scholarship. So that kind of also, made things a little bit easier too.
Right.
During that time period.
So talk about just merge. You talked about merging the coaches together. Was there any advice that was given from just like outside people, former players of the program that tried to just come in and just say, coach, man, this is how you do it. This is how we did. Or was you more enamored with trying to put your own type of atmosphere and spiel on it? Basically, like, look, that was my father. That was the past. That's how they did it. This is something new
Right.
now that I want to get accomplished.
So I think when I first got there, I wanted to kind of make it my own. You know what I mean? Like, and then so I mean, I did have conversations with some of those guys that played there. Obviously, some of them are my best friends, so it was a little bit easier in that perspective. But um, it was the moment I took the job, it was like the expectations was like through the roof though. So like everybody was like, y'all go, we got to win it all. We go win it all, like all of that. So it was balancing all of that stuff. But once I kind of had my own, because it was important for me to be able to like establish like how we were going to play and what we were going to do. And my philosophy, me and my dad have somewhat similar philosophies, but at the same time, it's different.
Hmm.
We have different differences in it as well. So, I had to create my own, brand of how I wanted Vashon basketball to look. And once I was able to do that, then later on, I started to, try to bring, the historical content back into it. So it was important for it not to look like, what my dad did 2.0,
Hmm.
but for it to look like its own deal, because again, like times change, things change, and I wanted, like it to put my own spin on things. But once I got that, now it was time to kind of, bring back a lot of the history in it. So we did a lot of, putting things up and making sure that all of our kids that came through it understood, the things that came before them.
Right, right. No, because I mean, I feel like that's important. But in a time like this, to where okay, you on a run, you knocking down some of the accomplishments, or just getting things back to where they were. Uh, did you ever take the time to just sit back and just say, man, am I really doing this, or you still kind of focus with what's the next approach and the next step, or you taking the time to just kind of sit back and just take in everything. Like how does that work now?
So the crazy thing is, man, like you never really get a chance to like sit back and just like be in the moment for real. Like,
Mhm.
because like right after we win, we won the championship, the next phase is making sure all the seniors get in school. Like that's always been the focus is
Right.
we email and we doing whatever to make sure that they get opportunities, taking them, making sure they get on, go on visits and do all these things. So like once that piece of it ends and they're all in school, then you get like a split second to be able to kind of like relax and think about it. So what I try to do is, man, I try to go on a vacation a year at least once, during that time period, just to be able to relax and not think about basketball. Because as soon as I get back, like it's a new class, it's a new group that deserves all your focus. So you don't really get a
Man.
chance, man, to like, you know how it is, man,
Yeah,
like to
no.
really sit there and just say, hey, and to other people bring it up. When people bring it up to you, then you get a chance to kind of like, well, damn, I really did. You know what I'm saying? That
Yeah,
really did happen. You don't
yeah.
really get a chance to think about it for
No,
real.
no, because I mean, we in it and we love what we doing. Well, what's kind of some of the things? I mean, you said vacation. That's what I was gonna say. What's some of the things that you do to mentally kind of make sure that you're in the right space and not just so engulfed with basketball? So vacation is some other things that you do to kind of you know mentally kind of
Decompress a
stay up.
little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like I mean the vacation thing is good. So my wife kind of she's the one who kind of got me, thinking about. So we try to go at least out of the country like once a year.
Hmm.
And so she really is the one who kind of put the vacation piece into play. And I now that I go, I love it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? So other than that, man, like I try to like just do things that like, you know, be around friends, man, barbecue, play cards, like just different things, man, to kind of not be in a moment where you have to talk about basketball all the time because you know how it is, man, when you're a coach, man, like it
Yeah.
doesn't matter where you go, man, like it ain't no off switch because somebody wants to come up and talk to you about basketball.
Yeah.
So when you're around your friends and stuff, sometimes like the conversations are about old stuff or like what we used to do and all of
Hmm.
those things. And it's not about like you get to be, Brian Turner, the person, not Coach BT,
Right. Right.
like, and I get to be like just Tony. I don't get to be, Coach Irons, the coach, like,
Hmm.
and that's something that like I think we all need, man,
Hmm.
because if not, we go be this not really this character, but like that's what everybody kind of looks at us as.
Man, I find ways to just I try to do something off the board. Like I said, I love, the wrestling and the reading and then the music and just some that I just know that's just not just totally just so engulfed with just basketball, like you say, because it'll get to a point where I find myself getting sick, getting headaches, not having the energy if I'm
Yeah.
constantly thinking about that stuff. You know what I mean? And then just kind
Yeah.
of just planning different things out like that. Like you said, being around friends, like that stuff is real important because we're such in a position where we're constantly making decisions, and you don't want to get decision making fatigue at a certain point when you really need to make that right decision, and you just
Mhm.
all of a sudden you wore down because you done made so many, got upset about this, that, and the third to when it's really important, you make the wrong one. You know what I mean?
Exactly,
Hmm.
man. Like that's something like, I'm in the position that I'm in now. Like I'm kind of I work at this alternative school now, and like I'm in an admin role in it, and every day again, like you said, it's decisions. It's making decisions all the time, man. And like, what it does is like I'm blessed to be able to have the opportunity to do it because it's helping me grow as a leader too.
Hmm.
Now, you're able to, kind of reflect on like, did you approach something the right way? And did you handle it? And your communication skills get so much better because of it. Because when we're in the gym as a coach, like we got our traditional ways of thinking and how we handle certain things. Now we got to be a lot more open-minded on things. So like that's kind of also helped me move into like coaching as well because I approach coaching now a little bit differently than what I did maybe 2 years ago before I even took this role.
Right. No, I meant to tell you this even when you just did the conference at Mizzou. That like breaking the game down digestible, man. You're doing a real good job with that. That I feel like even if it's somebody that's just coming in and may not be familiar with basketball, you breaking it down to the point where okay, oh, I get it, and it just it translate all across the board. Like I just feel like with basketball is just a tool, but just like what you
Mhm.
said, the communicating part that goes all the way across the board. So whatever you're trying to convey, you able to get it across and be able to break it down in such a way that everybody can get it. Is that something
Yeah.
that you want to move more towards doing and try to make sure that folks can kind of understand that aspect of coaching?
Yeah, I mean, like, and I appreciate you saying that, man. Like, even though I thought I did a horrible job,
Oh
I
no,
didn't
no,
go.
no, no.
Yeah, yeah, but like, it's important for me too. Like, we in the city sometimes as coaches, we get like sometimes different reps on what people may think our knowledge
Hmm.
level is, and how how we approach our craft. Like, so I don't want the stigma sometimes is out there. So it's important, man. Like, as a like one, not to get you know go down this path, but like I knew that a lot of African American high school coaches didn't get opportunities to speak at things like that.
Hmm.
So by me knowing that, I got to know, going. I approached it as just like a game, man. I approached it as this is something that I want to show that this is what we're all capable of doing. And being able to break it down was, that's something that like being able to coach at the different levels. So like I learned a lot of that from my college coach, but then having to figure out how to make it mine. And you know, some of the kids that I got kids that learn at various different levels, man. So I got to be creative on how I structure things so all of them can get it. Because sometimes doing it one way, half of them don't get it, and then
Right.
you do it a different way, then a half of them don't get it. You know what I mean? So it's
Yeah.
like figuring out the best way to break things down to this like simplistic form, and then being able to a point where everybody kind of can kind of get some sort of a idea of what you're trying to do, and then be able to kind of build on it is what. So that's always been my approach as a coach, just breaking down things. Is I try to get it as simplistic as possible, and
Man.
then try to get complex as we go.
No, I feel like, man, that's the best way that that everybody can kind of get it. So, I mean, what's next? Because I mean, do you have aspirations, or do you feel like that this is your calling, that you want to make constantly make impacts over young folks' lives at this age, from the 14 to 18 age, or do you feel like you need to branch out and maybe start conveying that message with older guys, or maybe even men at a professional rank? So how does Tony Earns go through the process of figuring out what's next?
So I mean, like, man, I just been really putting it in God's hands, man. Like I just try not to like overthink it. I do have aspirations on, at some point kind of growing into, coaching possibly at another level, just because like me as a competitor, man, and somebody who wants to continue to learn the game, I want to be able to continue to grow, because I feel like that you're able to, help more people, or help, I want my range that of people that I'm able to help to consistently grow. I love doing what I do, man. So like, if God said this is all I got to do, like, and I can't go no further than this, and I'm comfortable with it and I'm happy with it, But if there's other plans for me to, to move beyond this, I will welcome that as well, man. So, I'm excited about, coaching AAU this summer. I'm excited about all these things because there's a different group of kids that I get to, help mentor and put my hands on. So like, whatever's, meant for me to do, man, I'm going to listen to it, and just pray on it, man, and just see what goes from there. Like, but, I definitely would, entertain it if the opportunity presented itself, for sure.
Hmm. No, man, I think you're doing a phenomenal job, man. And if I don't ever tell you again, man, I appreciate, man, everything that you didn't, that I, especially what I didn't learn from you, because, man, I sit back and I watch everything that you do, and I just get inspired just watching your program, watching how you handle the kids, watching how you push the game forward with all the different things that you kind of you dive into, and I just think is overall is good for us as coaches to make sure that we observe, and just have people that we can kind of get things from. And if you don't have a good coaching relationship with somebody, man, pick up the phone and try to get mentors and colleagues to bounce ideas, because I just feel like St. Louis gets that stigma so much as if,
Yeah.
it's full of haters here and there. Folks don't like to do this and do that. But I just feel like, man, the more we come together and put our minds together, man, we have so much leverage to make sure that even the young folks see us in good light, and to know that, man, I can work with this person and work with that person and it be no problems whatsoever across
Yeah.
the board. Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I do, man. And I think a lot of people don't really understand like how close we all are though. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
just because we competitors, I mean, like at the end of the day, we all compete, but at the same time, man, there's so much mutual respect, you know what I'm saying, and love that, it's nothing for me to call you and say, hey, BT, what's going on with this? What you think about this? Like, and I want people to be able to feel the same way about me, you know what I mean? To be able to call and reach out. And because at the end of the day, like when it's all said and done, man, like our legacy is not going to be, what we won and all the, accolades and all of that. It's going to be the lives that we touched. So,
Yep.
if we can do that, there's nothing for me. Like if I have a resource or, a relationship with somebody that you may not have, it's important for me to share that with you, or vice versa. If you have one that I don't have, to share it if it can help one of our kids or be able to put them in the best situation possible, man. So I think that we all just kind of sometimes holistically just got to step out our own way, man, and just understand that it ain't about us. You know what I'm saying? Like
Man, that's
it's
that's the
about,
best advice, man. Get out your own way sometimes, man.
yeah, man. Yeah, it gotta happen, man. It got to. So I think we can though, man. Like you said, it takes, people like you doing stuff like this, man. Like, I really appreciate being on it, man. Like you've been doing a great job. I'm one of your subscribers, so I hope you know what I'm saying? Like I be actually, watching them and all of that stuff though, man. But
Yeah,
just
that's
what
what's
you're
up.
doing in the community and everything, man. Definitely, want to give you your flowers for that.
Man, appreciate it. Well, I'm gonna let you, man, let you go. Anything else you got, man, you want to throw out, you want to promote, you want to say what you got coming up, man. Man, throw it all out there, man.
Nah, I mean, I ain't got too much going on. I mean, we got the BBE Combine this weekend at Lindenwood. I mean, I think that's gonna be really, really good opportunity for guys to come in and work, man. Like we got a good group of coaches that's gonna be there. Actually, I know you coming on Sunday, right?
Right, yeah. Sunday. I
Yeah, so
told
we
you,
got
man, I
that.
can't.
We got yeah, but yeah. So I mean, but again, though, it's a good opportunity for kids to be able to just like to work with some of the guys that around the area that really put their heart into this stuff. And then we got Corey Alexander from ESPN and that does the McDonald's All American game. He's coming in to be the facilitator of the combine. So that's really really big, man. Other than that, man, like I I I gotta I'm going to speak at a clinic again this
Okay.
weekend. I don't know how I got all these speaking deals, man. I don't know, but
Man, I,
like,
I like that look, man. You gotta,
uh,
keep doing that, because I mean, I think that's good. That, like I said, folks see that, they get inspired, and it's just one of those things where you never know what God has in store for you. You know what I mean? So I feel like you
yeah,
should you should keep doing that.
yeah, I got an opportunity on in November, man. I'm going to Minneapolis to speak at one of the USA clinics, though.
Hmm.
So I'm excited about that, man. I'm nervous. I ain't gonna lie, I'm nervous as hell to make sure what I'm saying,
Nah.
sound pretty good though. But but again, like I said, man, like I just recognize, when there's opportunities, man. But like I want to be able, for my opportunity to be able to segue for other opportunities for other people as well, not just me, bro. So like that's important for me when I get those things to try to represent the best way that I can and open doors for other people to get opportunities like that too. So, that's pretty much it though, man. Like that, nothing else.
Man, appreciate your time, man. Coach Irons, man, Vashon basketball, man.